One of the first things that I always encourage people to do who are coming towards photography from whatever angle, whether it's from fine art angle, documentary or what have you, is to just look at the history. The great thing about the photograph is it's not been around that long. We haven't got centuries worth of swatting to do. It's relatively short and sweet. So if you can grasp a general good overview of how photography's developed over the years, you can actually see where contemporary things coming from. You know, the old adage that everything's been done, we just find different ways of doing it, is very true in photography as in all fine art. I mean, the first thing to do is just look. It's an obvious statement, but there are a million ways to see photography. Sometimes it can be very intimidating. You walk into a very swanky gallery and somebody's sat behind a desk and isn't particularly approachable. You know, don't be afraid of it. Just go on in there, and if you want to know something, you go and ask that question. That's how you learn. And next time you go in, you have the first few questions you were wondering about answered. You know where to go. You start from the next level and things progress. Museums, galleries, they're obvious places. Art fairs, perfect. One of the most important things, and it always has been important with photography, is publications, magazines, journals, books. Most collectors start off with a book collection, or they start buying magazines, then start to buy monographs. Then eventually start to think about, well, you know, I'm spending £50 on a book here. I'm really liking this artist, I really want a little bit of that artist. Maybe I can go that bit further. And even now, a lot of artists are doing limited editions with print, which is a lovely way to start. I don't know if you're familiar with Stephen Gill. He did a book called Hackney Wick, which he did 100 copies, I think it was 700 in the edition, 100 copies of which came with a print and sold for £100. I think the book was released around August, and by the following May, one of them went into the auction, first book auction, photography book auction at Sotheby's, and sold for £500. Not a bad return on a book that had been bought less than a year before. So there is, you know, that even at that basic level, there's an opportunity to really invest and also drive up the relevance of the artist. Also, many galleries that specifically deal with photography over fine art, I do find are easier to talk with. Obviously, I talk to photographers every day. I look at photography every day, so there is kind of a language there. It's what's great about the art market is that in the photography world, it's more akin to a knitting circle than a big conglomerate. It's tiny. But when you come to auction houses, I would say, at first they seem like the most intimidating things in the world. It's a very alien environment. You're sat in a room, there's somebody there with a hammer, there's these things flashing up, and I'm not sure. It's very tempting just not to actually go and to buy over the phone. I would recommend, if you are going to do that, always go to the viewing day. There's usually a couple of days before, the day before an auction, you can go and see the work. Most auction houses have catalogues. You can subscribe to those. Subscribe to them, you don't need to buy, but it's a good way of keeping an eye on the market and the prices. If you do go to see the work in the flesh, you might find that what you see in the flesh and what you see in the catalogue are two very different things. The source may be from a publication, not actually photographing the work itself. So the actual condition of the print is paramount to its value. So it's always worth seeing it in the flesh. If you can see something out of a frame, look at it out of the frame. Look for the stamp. There are lots of ways of ensuring you're getting what you pay for and you know what something's worth. But talk to people. I mean, it's amazing who I've been sat next to at auctions who are sat there with the BlackBerry looking and saying, okay, I've seen, they've got a list of what the images they're interested in have sold for before, so they know there's a cap. Give yourself a budget. Say, okay, I'm not going to spend over this. You've got a commission on top of that and VAT. Easy to forget that, and that can add up if you're spending thousands. Then there's the internet. Now, like I say, seeing something in the flesh, there's nothing like seeing something in the flesh. Obviously, you can't always do that if there's a piece in New York. That's where reputation comes into play. A very well-known gallery, you expect good service, and if you're not happy with it, you can send something back. If there's anything wrong, they will accommodate you. that's where the network comes in. Personal recommendations. Who do people deal with? You know, Howard Greenberg, great reputation. You know you're safe in his hands. Smaller, lesser known gallery, you know, put the feelers out. There's always ways of finding these things out. Just a little thing about the auctions. If you are interested in an auction, you can actually, even if you don't attend, get the hammer prices afterwards. So you can phone up the auction house and get a list, see what the work sold for, compare it with your catalogue. Sometimes there are a big difference, whether that's higher or lower. Auctions are usually cheaper than galleries because galleries are taking commission. However, you know, if you think about the overheads, it's slightly different, but there's no hard, fast rule.
Celebrating the first 25 years of our own history here, which I realise, thinking about it, is a complete generation, and evidently this is a time to stop and take stock of what we've been doing. So what I'd like to do is to show you as many pictures as I can possibly fit into the space, because pictures are what this whole thing is about. And although I cannot claim that what I'm going to give you is a narrative in organisational terms of how a collection is made, I would like to at least show you the kind of things we have and the kind of ways they came into the collection. This is, to my mind, the Scottish art form, in the very real sense that the Scots explored the art and science of photography from the very beginning and to its highest level, as a result of which the international art of photography has been built on ideas that are inextricably Scottish. This is a group of fishermen which is part of a surprisingly large series of photographs of the fishermen and women of the Firth of Forth, which was based on Newhaven. This series, which was not fully realised, is one of Hill and Adamson's most extraordinary inventions and ambitions. They invented the social documentary series in Scotland in the 1840s. They decided to make a heroic portrait, a collaborative analysis of an admirable self-determining working community, the first time this had ever been done, and about 80 years before the idea was picked up again. 2 points are worth making here. Photography has this engaging character of moving visual understanding out of its time. It's not always easy to tell where a photograph belongs chronologically. Photographers found and learned new things that were picked up by other artists later. This is a power that you have as photographers. Secondly, a rather more political point, specifically in relation to these photographs, if we were in North America, we would be celebrating Hill and Adamson's work loudly, publicly, and with unequivocal pride. This is a challenge. Please go out there and start shouting about our own great heritage here. You will be aware, of course, that one of the photographic focuses, if you like, has been on Glasgow, and particularly in the middle of the 20th century, you perhaps don't know, which is Roger Main. This is Joseph Mackenzie, Beetle Girl, 1964. And this is Oscar Marzaroli, Castle Milk Lads. Coming into the 1980s, we have Raymond Moore's Galloway, lovely enigmatic work. This is Mary Johnston's New Mexico Desert. And by the time we come into the second half of the 20th century, the last quarter of the 20th century, we increasingly encounter the extraordinary versatility of the living photographers. This is coming into the time when we're actually making this collection, and there's a great deal happening throughout Scotland. This is by Martin Franck, and is, for me, a photograph about photography. It was taken at the Hospice at Ivry-sur-Seine in 1975, and it's a picture, if you look at it and think about it, that's given rather than taken, that it is an exchange. You can see what's going on from the way the woman's responding, and I love it very much. Now that is, I'm sorry, that was whistle stop. But if you would like to ask about anything or talk about anything, I'm very happy to talk about it later after the last